Hi, and welcome. My name is Sabrina from the Stylish and Sustainable YouTube channel and livestylishandsustainable.com. For the best healthy and sustainable living advice, be sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast, and know that there's a new episode every Thursday along with videos on YouTube every Tuesday. If you're looking to know more about sustainable swimwear, we are going to be talking all about that today, so this is the right episode for you. By the end of the episode, you're going to know all about Bold Swim, which is my favorite sustainable swimwear line. Tiffany, the founder and owner of Bold, sat down with me to talk about the real truth behind the swimwear industry. So, without any further ado, let's dive in. Hi, Tiffany. How are you doing?
Great, Sabrina. How are you?
Very good. I'm so excited to be chatting about Bold Swim. Kind of before we dive into the larger picture of what Bold Swim is and how Bold Swim kind of fits inside the context of kind of plastic pollution and sustainable swimwear, I would love to just hear kind of what inspired you to start Bold Swim in the first place.
Sure. So I started Bold Swim out of a need to find swimwear that fit my body, quite honestly. Me and my fiance love to vacation quite often, and I discovered starting my company on our trip, I couldn't find any swimwear that fit my body, that fit my aesthetic that I liked, anything. So when I finally decided to purchase a swimsuit, it didn't fit. So I ended up covering up the entire time. So it was just a pain point altogether to be stressful. I couldn't find anything that I felt sexy and comfortable while going on this great vacation. So I decided to make my own.
That's so funny because when I was thinking about Bold Swim and the swimsuit that I have from Bold Swim, when I wore it the first time, I was just surprised by, I guess, like how comfortable it made me feel in my own body. And we can dive more into the way that Bold Swim approaches body types and body positivity in a sense in its advertising and your guys' approach on sizing. But that's so funny because I was literally thinking about, so what is my overall takeaway from this suit? And that was one of the things that I just didn't feel the need to wear a cover up, on the way to the hot tub. And that I love that so much. So we kind of started to chat about it, but what exactly, from your perspective, makes Bold Swim unique?
What makes us unique is that I take the approach of every woman is going to wear this. Every woman, no matter ethnicity, background, size, has the same unique desire to be sexy, confident, and feel good in her own skin and not make this investment in this swimsuit and then end up covering it up. I didn't want that. So I painstakingly design every suit, try every suit on, even if it's outside of what my normal comfort level would be for a swimsuit. I want to be able to wear every design that I make. And I want every other woman to feel the same way. So normally if you wore one pieces, now you're getting into two pieces because the fit is meticulously, designed for you in all body types. So I try on every suit. I make adjustments from there. I don't just pick what's popular and, here and there and just oh yeah, I'm going to put that in my catalog, my collection. I try it on. I make the adjustments for a larger chested woman or smaller chested, bigger hips, smaller waist, all these different types of women that, that are in my network or my customers. I make those adjustments based on them and feedback from customers.
So let's actually for a second put a pin in the part of Bold Swim that I was initially drawn to, which is, and we'll dive into this, the sustainability aspect, but let's lean more into kind of this discussion about body type and swimsuits. So, bursting onto the swimsuit scene, what would you say you encounter overall as the typical swimsuit model, the typical body that people expect you to market to? And how does that make it challenging to step past that and really evolve what it means to wear a swimsuit and be more transparent about being a swimsuit line for all body types?
Absolutely. So to really answer that question, Sabrina, I have to kind of tell you kind of what I look like since we're not meeting in person. So I am a 35-year-old, 5'7" athletic build with curves, size 12 to 14, depending on the day, right, ladies? African American woman. So I'm pretty curvy. So most of what I see in marketing is catered to the straight size, model size, Caucasian woman. So that's not something that I can identify with. So you'll see a few that are mixed, that are, mixed race or Latina or all these different races, but hardly a full figured African American woman. And so when I go to look for things that are in my body type, I can't get a true sense of what it will look like on me, how the fit will be, because that body type is not represented. So, and regardless of when I started doing my market research on my customers, I even, in my network, I have a lot of Caucasian, white women, all these different backgrounds and ethnicities, and they're also full figured. So they also can identify with not seeing their body type represented. And I was like, it's not about race. It's not about, where you come from, your background. It's really about just being a woman. Like, we have all this natural body fat that we have to account for and cover up and make sure it's sexy and make sure it's the right place. So then that's when I really just narrowed down what I wanted to women to take away from my brand was confidence. Like, let's restore confidence. We spend all this time, and at the end of it, we just end up covering up and being miserable and, being insecure. So I really wanted to be confidence in you, where you are now. This weight gain didn't happen over, a night. It's not going to go away in a night. And we should be realistic about where we are right now in our journey with that and to just be happy. It's just being really intentional about having every woman represented. And you may not feel comfortable or confident in a bikini, and that may never be the case. And, maybe my brand will never fulfill that. But what I think that I do very intentionally is I eventually want to wear a triangle top, bikini. In a way to do that, I take some of the problems that exist in those and just really flesh out the design a little bit more. Okay, so triangle tops are not really great for big busted women. And if they are, what can we do to make this more like an everyday beach look versus more of a sexy, over sexualized look to make, a woman just feel confident, whether they're with their children or if they're alone or with, on a girls trip. So I think about that design and I think about different ways to create that from that one design, 3 different looks for 3 different body types or 3 different situations that, a woman might encounter in her life. And just being very intentional about showing those different types of women, whether, they're at different stages in their life, and just really showing that and being confident, like, and okay that it's okay if you have a little cellulite because that's natural. It's okay to show the everyday woman in very untouched photos. It's okay if you have a hair out of place because after all, we're really, we should be able to laugh at ourselves and not take ourselves so seriously. And I think a lot of that comes from being a photographer first. And I just love taking candid photos of people because I find beauty in all of it. And so I think that's how my approach is when I very intentional about showing the models and showing just everything, just everything.
It's so interesting hearing you talk about the principle behind your guys' design, because buying swimsuits, you're so right. It's challenging, not only from a sustainability perspective, but also, yeah, when you approach a situation and if you have any sort of background of body positivity issues or just general confidence problems, it's even magnified in a swimsuit, I feel like. And you just explained that, like to a certain point, we can all cover up with sweaters, but dang, there is
Yes.
no way in a swimsuit. And you're right, you just end up covering up. And so there's this weird mental game that gets played when you shop. And I was just so shocked when I put on, because for those of you listening, I got a Hummingbird, was the suit that I got from Bold Swim, and it's a low cut suit. And I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting, because you said, you want a suit that's versatile, right? And I was so surprised how well covered it was. I would feel fine wearing it to a pool party. I would feel fine wearing it to babysit young cousins. It's just, it was shocking to me because it was one of the first suits in a long time that I put on. And I felt like, okay, this is great for a sexy night in the hot tub with my fiance, but comfortable enough where I don't feel like I have to cover up. And I think you're so right about, and that kind of also plays into, we play this really interesting game, I feel like, in clothing, and chatted about this with guests before, where we are marketed in a way where it looks different on someone's body. We get it and we're like, well, it's so expensive, but even though it doesn't really serve me, I have to make it work. And so then you just get in this weird buying cycle of like, okay, what do I get to go with this or to cover this up so that I can make use of it? And it's so refreshing to have a piece where you're just like, this is just it. This is all I need.
Exactly. Thank you so much for that.
And that aside, of course, freaking soft. And that kind of leads into, we're going to get more into about plastic pollution and sustainable swimwear in a second. But I kind of want to jump to, I think a big question for me was educating, once I started researching you guys, about what exactly the fiber is that your swimsuits are made of. And then I put it on and I was like, it feels like butter. So I want to know what the swimsuits are made of. And I would love for you to explain to the audience kind of what that means in everyday terms, and what does that mean for the feel of the swimsuit itself, and then for the waste and the sustainability of the fiber.
The fabric that I use, and I only use one type of thread, yarn. So the fabric, I chose that because, like you mentioned, it's very super soft and super durable, and it's made with the technology that makes it biodegradable. So if, 1,000 years from now, God forbid, it ends up in a landfill, it's able to break down faster than continue to be on this earth, causing more pollutants and toxins were being released into the air. So the fabric is called Omniso Eco Thread, and it has reduction in CO2 components. It uses less water. It's lighter. There's no toxins to make the dye. And so therefore it's not toxic to your skin. And throughout the entire supply chain process, it has that whole, but I'm trying to not use the layman terms, but it's really friendly year round. So a little bit of kind of back up a little bit. So I produce and manufacture in Brazil. And the reason I do that is because the fabric is made and produced in Brazil. So throughout the supply chain, I'm using less emissions from transferring back and forth. I'm using the less gas emissions, and also the waste that is produced from cutting of the patterns that I design is also given back to local Brazilian artisans so they can use in home textiles such as rugs and dishcloths and dish towels and things like that. So throughout the entire supply chain, from me purchasing the fabric, from it getting from the warehouse to my manufacturing plant, to me, the entire process is controlled in the manufacturing of it and production of it.
So I like to do this when I'm chatting with gals who are, running their own business, to start with your production model as a foundational understanding, because now I'm going to switch it and I'm going to ask you to explain to the audience what regular swimsuit production looks like and how that can contribute long-term to environmental degradation.
So what happens? So I'm in California, and what happens is there's a lot of, we know the big manufacturing plants are China and India and those places. So what happens is, for example, if I'm a brand based in Los Angeles, I purchase a fabric maybe here, but that fabric came from China. It's been sitting on the shelf for who knows how long. So I go to the local fashion district, shop the fabric, pick it up, buy it. Maybe it takes maybe 2 yards to make maybe 5 swimsuits. Okay. A roll of fabric can be anywhere from 120 yards and above. So that fabric is already been shipped here. It's been sitting here. It's, its shelf life has been well exhausted. There's 1,000 fabric and rolls in a warehouse, and they eventually get wasted. So then if I want something new and exciting, I go, make a specialty order that fabric from another supplier, another country, have it shipped here. It's not what I want. So the cycle just continues where that roll is either I throw it away, give it back to a warehouse if I can resell it, or it just goes on closeout, or eventually is trashed again. So all the emissions, all the dyes, all the pollutants go into the air, go into the factories, get shipped over here, and the cycle is repeated. I'm not sure if any of your listeners have gone down to Los Angeles Fashion District, but it is filthy.
Mhm.
Because of all the rolls of fabric that are wasted, that are not picked up, that are not, considered in stock or in season. And it just, the cycle, like you mentioned earlier, just wanting to buy something new, having something new, new color, new fabrics tested. I don't do that. I use fabrics that are already existing or use like the last bits of the roll. So I figure out how many swimsuits I can make with the fabric that's already existing, that's already left over. If I decide to do a print or any type of pattern fabric.
Yeah, I think that there's a huge misunderstanding about not even using a conversation. Like, if we completely separate the swimsuit industry from the context of nylon and plastic particulates, and we only focus on waste, it's mind blowing. Like you mentioned, and so much of it is really our own fault as consumers because we drive that. But having brands that are taking the step to actively say, no, this is what we stand for. We're going to create a piece that is going to cost a little more upfront, but it's going to be a timeless piece that you don't have to roll over every season, I think is the key. And it's so exciting to see companies like Bold Swim taking a stand and doing that. So I would love to also dive in and focus a little bit on Omnisole Eco Thread. Omnisole Eco Thread, I want to say that right. What are most swimsuits made of?
Nylon and recycled nylon, recycled polyester. There's a elastane mix. So it can be any combination of elastane and polyester, nylon. Most of them are like 80%, 20% elastane, or performance lycra is another one. A little bit of spandex that gives it that four-way stretch. Like, so when you stretch it, sometimes with those, when you stretch it, you'll see what's called the piling in between. So you'll see like the dye is not all the way through the fabric. So you'll see white in between the color when you stretch it apart. And that's one of the differences that I chose Omnisole, because you don't see that when you pull it apart. You see 100% color saturation through the entire garment.
I think my next question, to clarify for folks before we dive into about how we can start shopping smart for swimsuits, I also love how your website is very explicit about care for swimsuits. So what does proper swimsuit care look like for the long-term life of the garment? And also, I would love to hear just any tips that you have for folks about reducing microplastics and stuff like that that might rub off during the washing process.
So the best I found with this fabric, because I've put it through the test, I've washed it incorrectly. I've washed it with bleach. I've washed it with, detergents. I've washed it with everything to really figure out what the best care is for it. Now, obviously, I have the manufacturer's recommended guide for that, which I publish. But the best thing to do is, technology has come a long way. So your washer and dryer do have the settings for hand wash or low or no heat. So those are always going to be the best settings. But if you can get away from even using the electricity to put it on those settings in your washer, hand washing it in, lukewarm water with no detergent is always the best. Because the fabric already has where it has antimicrobial component to it. So there's not a need to, and has the moisture wicking the odor, that it's not going to be a need to really put any detergent or harsh soaps on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes it easy to And then you don't have to worry about putting it in and not drying it and that funny game that's always a little scary with swimsuits.
The mold that gets in it, like it's, you don't even have to do that. So you want to like just air dry it, put it out as soon as you get out of it, not necessarily in the sun, but you can put it out, under the shade for a little bit so it can just air dry naturally. And that's really the best.
I love it. So we've talked about the sustainability aspect of swimsuits. We've talked about how we approach marketing and body positivity in the context of swimwear. With all of that kind of combined, how would you approach someone who asked you, how do I shop for a swimsuit? What would you say to them?
I would say, first of all, you need to shop my website. I'm really intentional about, like, yes, I want something to be stylish and, not necessarily follow a trend. Definitely modern swimwear for sure. But the swimwear is not just where you can only wear it in the water, and you'll feel that with traditional lycra performance fabrics and nylon and polyester because it's very stiff. So after a couple of hours, even when it's dry, you want to kind of get out of it because it's kind of restraining. Now, with mine, it's meant to be worn all day, so it acts as a bra and panty set because there's no harsh um, I can't even think of the word right now, but there's no harsh fabrics that are pulling you and chafing you and cutting into you. So you can wear it all day like a bra and panty set. You can wear it all day like a body halter or body suit. So very intentional about looking for those things in other brands with no metal pieces, things that are reversible that can be that alternative bra top that we, good God forbid, there's so many bras that we need for just evening wear, tank tops, regular shirts. So finding a brand that has that versatility in its one garment where it has two sides instead of one, where you could, it's reversible, where it doesn't have any harsh metal things where over time, they don't degrade or anything like that. So just really those are the tips that I look for, where it can be the neutrals where it's in a black and white. And those are going to be your classic colors that never go out of style, right? So just those things where you can already look at it and figure out two or three different outfits from it.
I'm so glad you said that because I realized the other night I was putting on the hummingbird and I was like, dang, this would be really cute under jeans. And I was like, is that okay? Can I wear a swimsuit? So it's good
Yep.
to hear you confirm that that's okay. And a great tip. I mean, yeah, like why don't we think of swimsuits as being able to double as bodysuits? It's so ridiculous that so often, you're right, they are so uncomfortable that they can't. Totally true that the suit that I have absolutely probably will eventually.
Because you go in and out of the resort all the time. You're in the water and then you pause for a break. You're in the bar, the tiki bar, and then you're going into the hotel and then you're back out again. So why are you going all the way up to the hotel room? It's that in and out lifestyle, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And again, that kind of circles back to what you mentioned earlier about, like also choosing a suit that, you're going to feel confident in and really playing to your strengths. So we've talked a lot about swimwear in general. We've talked a lot about Bold Swim. How can people find and follow and shop Bold Swim?
So you can follow us on Instagram, bold, BOLD _swim, SWIM, or the website, www.boldswim.com.
I love it. So exciting. And even more exciting, Tiffany has been lovely enough to give all of our listeners a special code with capital STYLISH, stylish, for 10% off a suit. That's exciting. It's a great Christmas gift for a pal, or honestly, for yourself if you're a listener and you need a new swimsuit. Well, so exciting, Tiffany. Thank you so much for chatting with me. In the long term, so people know your Instagram, people know your website. What are other ways from a gal starting a business? What are ways that people can actively support women that are starting businesses? How can we continue to find amazing businesses like Bold Swim and support them?
I think just search in your own network. There's always someone doing great things, and I think that it's the year of the woman, and I really really believe that, and I'm so glad that it is. So find look in your network. There's always a women's group. I'm subscribed to a women's group that I go to in Los Angeles. I try to support other women that I don't even know on Instagram. So if you have a random follower that you see, or a girl that you like her style, just send her a message and say, positive vibes, or sending her, these motivational things, because I think that people are really receptive to that, and you gain that sisterhood from that. There's lots of girl clubs and women's clubs around that you can join to grow that network if you don't have it, to be in support of those initiatives. Find charities that support girl and women initiatives. I think there's always something that you can find. Look on an Eventbrite, look on meetups, Facebook groups, anything that wherever you subscribe or wherever you find podcasts. I found this one by just looking around and looking at for fashion things that, fit my interest, and just really start listening. And then once you hear somebody's name, I looked you up, Sabrina. So just looking, wanting to be a part of it well beyond just, talking about Bold, but it just really reaching out and being that sister that you have or that you never had, and supporting one another. I think that's really important.
Oh, wasn't that great? Tiffany is so brilliant and honestly super badass. Again, you can find them at Bold Swim on Instagram and at boldswim.com. Great swimwear line and even more amazing gal. If you're interested in living more sustainably, be sure to check out the previous episodes of this podcast. We've got lots of tips and tricks for sustainable living and much more inspiring interview content from some really badass ladies that are rocking that sustainable lifestyle. If you like this episode, please be sure to follow if you're listening on Spotify, and subscribe if you're listening on iTunes. Also, be a pal, be a fantastic gal, and leave a review. Let me know what you think about the episode. Let me know what you need to learn. Let me know all of the things that you are considering and wondering about sustainability in a review. Do it. Leave a review. If you want to reduce toxins in your life and use more natural, safe products in your home, visit my website for a free full-length Essential Oil 101 course. You'll learn all about how you can switch toxic products in your home for 100% safe and natural products. You can also get a free downloadable sustainable health map and a quick coaching video on establishing your health goals at the link in the show notes. See you guys next week. Sending good vibes.